Welcome back to the Blueprint to Ultra podcast with your hosts, Stephen Epifano and Jeff Winchester. Our goal with this podcast is to help you put together your own plan for your next Ultra. We do this by interviewing a variety of guests that range from the back of the pack to elite runners that share their own experiences for us all to learn from. Today's guest is someone who didn't grow up as a runner. Running started as a way to counteract college life at the University of Georgia. Then for more than 2 decades, she was a solid mid-pack road runner, the kind of runner a lot of us can relate to, consistent, active, doing all the races, but also slowing down, battling injuries, and eventually falling out of love with pounding the pavement. Then COVID hit. Running stopped, hiking began, backpacking followed. And somewhere along the way, she found trail running and eventually ultra running. And then everything changed. Since her first ultra in 2021, she's completed more than 20 trail races and ultra races, endured hurricane conditions, freezing rain, and some of the darkest mental moments imaginable. And she's also stood on the top step of the podium as winner of the Yeti 100. At 48 years old, she just had the best performance year of her life, setting personal bests in the mile, 5K, 10K, half marathon, 50K, 50 miler, 100K, and 100 miler, winning races overall and staying injury free. She's also a former physician assistant in orthopedic surgery and sports medicine, a mom of twin boys, a volunteer in disaster medical response, and a powerful voice for runners, especially women, navigating aging, hormones, mindset shifts, and what's truly possible when training becomes intentional. Today, we're diving into ultras, mindset, midlife breakthroughs, and why consistency really is king. Thank you for being with us today and introducing April Bailey to the show.
Thank you. That was quite an introduction.
Steve.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, Steve, before you get any further,
Absolutely.
I know you're about to go, but holy cow, let's just ignore her for a second.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you like to set a PR in every single distance you have run?
It would be nice all in the same year. I mean, multiple years would be great, but if you could string them all together in 1 year, that'd be fantastic.
Insanity. And, we know where she's going in the future. In March, she's got a big race. It's going to be a PR in that race as well, but we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Sorry. I'm super impressed, super excited to talk to you as well, April. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Yeah, so we went in, like Jeff said, we went into the intro, went through a great 2025, but you said in your questions to us, you never really identified as a runner. How do you think that mindset kind of shaped your relationship with the sport, like early and then kind of eventually like leading up to now?
I think it goes back to my why. And, it's everyone says that they have it changes with the seasons of life. And certainly, as I alluded to in my questionnaire, when I first started running, it wasn't because I loved running and I loved, just being out there pounding the pavement. It was to, try to stay in shape, to lose weight, to be fit. And I never really did it because I loved it. I enjoyed doing the races. That was certainly fun. But it wasn't until I discovered trail and ultra that I really had that shift to, wow, I really love this. I love running through the woods and the trails and being in nature. When I was running marathons and road races, I was always listening to music, like drowning out everything. But now, I'll listen to a podcast or audiobook if it's a super long run. But generally, I just love going out and being in nature and just kind of zoning out. And I really have found that love of running that I didn't really have back then, or if I did, it was very short lived because it felt like I was running because I had to, and now I want to, and it's fun to see the improvement and to challenge myself and to set goals and meet those goals. It's also, I don't know if fun's the right word, but you also learn a lot when you don't meet those goals. Mm-hmm. And that's certainly helped with goal setting for the next event. But yeah, I've really grown to love the sport and the community over the past, I'd say, 3-4 years.
So just to follow that a little bit, you kind of alluded to the idea that you felt like you had to run before. Mm-hmm. I find that whenever I'm told I have to do something by anybody, it could be my kids, my wife, my work, my boss, whatever. I don't enjoy anything I have to do. So right. How did you, I get going out and running trails kind of helps you kind of see things a little bit differently, but how do you think that you had this shift take place? Like, was there a moment in time you're like, I don't enjoy running anymore, and I am now happy to run? Like, what do you remember the time that this kind of like snapped?
Well, I guess going back to COVID when I started hiking, and I really got into backpacking and doing a few backpacking trips. And I went on a guided backpacking, like a fast pack trip in the Great Smoky Mountains. And we did it over the course of, I think, like 2 days, two and a half days. And one of the guides was an ultra runner. And I was kind of up front most of the time. And he was like, are you an ultra runner? And I was like, no. And he kind of told me about it. And I was like, I just thought that was for elites. And I didn't really understand all that kind of came along with it. And the more we talked about it, I was like, that's really fascinating and intriguing. And when I got home, I just kind of read about it and signed up for my first race. And that was the Pilot Mountain to Hanging Rock, 50K. And I remember that was the first time I had like run on trails, and I'm running in this race and I'm just like looking around. I was like, this is awesome. How did I not know about this before? So that was, to answer your question, Jeff, that was when it really shifted. I felt a joy and, just happiness running through the woods that I had not previously experienced running, road events or even training for road events. And it wasn't just nature. It was also, as you know, the trail running community is much, in my opinion, much different than the road running. And that's not to say anything bad about road running. And I still enjoy some road running to a degree, but it just felt very inclusive and supportive. I remember even the first few races I did, the leader, it was a loop course, and the leader would pass me on the out and back and like high five me and tell me, you're doing awesome. You look amazing. And I did not look amazing, and I was not doing awesome, but she told me I did. So I believed it, and it really gave me a boost, and I was like, I've never been, acknowledged, much less given a high five by the winner of a race, like in a road race. So to me, that was like just even more, I don't know. It was just, I really wanted to be a part of it. And so the more I did, the more I fell in love with it. And I just started reading all the books I could, listening to all the podcasts, and just really becoming a student of the sport, learning as much as I could. I didn't have a coach. So it was mostly just, immersive learning.
You definitely threw yourself into it. There's no question.
Yeah.
And I love that. I mean, I think you're absolutely spot on. I don't think I've ever used the same kind of visual imagery of a leader high-fiving you and everything. But, a lot of runners that do ultras resonate with this because you're out there for so long. And if you're on a loop course or on an out and back or whatever it is, you end up seeing the leaders at some point. And it is different than a road race where everybody just takes off and they just go. And most time you don't see them again. And so there is that difference where the leaders do tend to interact. And I think that's awesome. I think it's one of those things that you kind of like, because you can see just how hard the leaders are actually running and how much they're pushing themselves. And, how I'm nowhere near the front of the pack. Let's just be very honest with ourselves. And I'm back here suffering and thinking, holy smokes, look at how fast she is, because I saw April do this in the Yeti. Like, look at these people, how easy they make it look. And I don't look at that with a sense of frustration or bitterness or anger. It's more like admiration and respect.
Of course.
Like, holy cow. Like, it's different because you're one of us, if you will. And seeing what's possible is absolutely incredible. So I can definitely see how seeing the leader and everything would be somebody that would inspire you. So 2021 is when this started for you.
Yes.
Now,
fall of 2021.
Now, I know that my wife would be yelling at me because we're going to say your age again, and that you're not supposed to do that. I know that. But at 48, I'm 53, so we can kind of level the playing field a little bit. At 48, so 3 years earlier, you're 45, right? And you decide you're going to get into this sport. Now, my question, if you will, is how did this come about? Because most runners at our age, right? I started when I was 39, right? Most runners at our age feel like our better days are behind us. So how do you?
Oh, absolutely.
Right, so what message do you have for somebody who thinks, I don't know if I can do this? Now, we're going to talk about the things you've done. And so if somebody's listening, they're thinking, I mean, April's cool and all. She may be a little bit older, but I don't see how it's possible. Like, seriously, you've done some incredible stuff. And
thank you.
And yet, at some point, you probably felt like, I'm getting a little older. Like, I have felt this way. I still feel this way. So,
yes.
Every day I get up.
And I still feel that way, too. I think it was, okay, so going back to that first ultra, the Pilot Mountain race, I ended up winning, I think it was an age group award, and I had never won an age group in anything. And I was like, this is amazing. Maybe I'm really good at this. And I wasn't. It
Pause.
was,
Wait, pause. You didn't win anything as a road runner?
no, I don't think so. No.
Holy cow.
Maybe like some little tiny like 5Ks. I would run an age group here and there, but no.
Steve, you and I didn't discuss this before, but weren't you thinking when she was a road runner before that maybe she'd won like half marathons or something as fast?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No. In fact, I tried to qualify for Boston for like, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And I was just getting slower each time instead of faster. And that was kind of when I was trending towards, all right, I'm done with running. Running sucks. It hurts. Everything. I keep getting injured, and I was getting slower. I put on some weight, and I was just, going back to what you just said, I was to the point where I was like, you know what, my best years are behind me, unfortunately, and I should have done more when I could have. Now I'm in my, mid 40s, and all the lovely things that come along with the aging process, especially for females, and hormonal changes and shifts. And I had kind of written off, running, and that's how, I guess that's kind of how it evolved into, all right, I'll back off from running and just do some hiking. That's low impact, and I can still be out in nature. And even doing that, I felt like, well, I really am old if I'm like, okay, let's go hiking and let's go walking instead of running. I was feeling like my best years are behind me. And when I got that age group award at that ultra, I was like, this is, that was kind of the impetus for, okay, if I work at this, maybe I can be good at this. And the more I did, I kind of realized, not that I had this special, uncovered talent, but I was definitely better at endurance than speed. And I could outlast, other runners. And I started to see that in races, that if I would just, it's easy to say if you would just pace yourself, but if I would take it kind of easy, then I would start passing people that passed me early in the race. And so I really latched onto that and did, more reading about that. And that's when I really went down that rabbit hole of zone 2 training. I read that book, Training for the Uphill Athlete. I don't know if you're familiar with that book.
Yes.
Got lots of, I just kind of used that as my Bible, and Coop's book, Essentials.
For ultra running, yep.
Yep. And both of those, I guess, were kind of like my Bible for training. And that's what I kind of went by. And the zone 2 training, I did that for the first couple of years, and that was not sexy at all. In fact, I hated it. I'd run down the trail, and in order to keep my heart rate where it should be, pretty low, I'd have to walk a lot more than I was running. And it was so frustrating because I'd like jog a little bit, my heart rate would creep up, but I'd have to stop running and start walking. And people that I run on the same trail a few days a week, people that I would often pass would be passing me. And they're like looking at me like, why is she going so slow? Or why is she walking? Or at least in my mind, that's what I was thinking. And just being, having some vanity, I was like, I wanted to be like, I can run. I'm walking on purpose, But putting in that time and just staying disciplined and staying committed to that zone 2 training and staying consistent with it, I think that really helped me build a big base endurance wise. And then I just used that as the foundation for training. The past, I would say 2 years is when I got a little bit more intentional with speed work and tempo and hills and strength training and things like that. But in doing so, coming back full circle to your question, I have found that at 48, I'm fitter and faster and stronger, leaner. My body composition is better. And my overall health, I feel like, is really at its peak, where when I first kind of had this mentality, a few years ago, like, oh, I'm getting old and out of shape, and this is what it is. If you stick with that, if you keep that mentality, then yeah, you are going to get old and fat and fall out of shape, and you're going to feel bad. But your best years are not behind you. My best years definitely are not behind me, and I'm thankful that I was able to, kind of harness that mentality a couple of years ago and see where it could take me. And as I said to you before, Jeff, in that questionnaire, I feel like I still have room for improvement. I still have the capacity to improve. And to me, that's very exciting. So it's cliche, but age is just a number. Who cares if you're 48 or 28 or 58? If you get out there and you do it and you're intentional, that was my other problem when I was road running. I was not consistent. I was not intentional. I was just kind of, it was like junk miles, just to check a box. Yep, I did my miles this week. But I think, staying consistent and being intentional has really made all the difference, because our minds are very malleable. Our bodies are too, but our brain it's so adaptive if we allow it to be. And there's a study came out, a paper came out, I think it was in November of this past year at UNC Chapel Hill, that talks about, we've known for a long time this paradigm of the brain or exercise is neuroprotective. But now there's been a shift to, well, it's really fascinating to see the neuroplasticity and how much exercise contributes to that, and especially endurance exercise. And so one thing I took away from that paper was the chronic stress that you put on your body through ultra training is kind of like the stress inoculation, and then the event itself is where you see those massive changes, and the brain adapts to that and even regenerates new neurons, all kinds of peptides and proteins. So there is actual scientific data that shows us the endurance exercise is not only beneficial for your body and for your cardiovascular fitness, but also for your brain and your cognitive function. So why not do it if you're able to?
I'm starting to write down lots of notes.
No.
I think I could just let you talk the entire time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have no more questions.
I have no more questions. And so I do have there's one thing there's a few things I'm going to say real quick if I can. And I really hope that people heard this, at least those sitting in the back, is the idea of zone 2 for 2 years.
Yes.
Holy cow. Oh God, I don't know how to get that across. I
know, I'm telling you, you got to put in you have to just kind of know up front, this is a long-term investment. You're not going to get, your return on investment in 6 weeks or even 3 months. In fact, I remember look at my little journal and I'd look back 3 months ago, oh man, my pace has only improved by 5 seconds per mile. But I kept it, and I came very close to saying, this isn't working. I don't know if I buy into this, but I stuck with it. And truly, I would say it was probably 10 months or so before I went out for a run and I was able to run the whole time without stopping, and my heart rate stayed in zone 2 and it felt easy. And I was like, I can't believe it. And then I compared it to when I had first started, 9 or 10 months prior. And I had to run, I was averaging 18-minute miles between running and stopping to walk to keep my heart rate down. And then when I was able to go out for a run without having to stop and walk, it was like a 9:45 mile or something. But I didn't come out of zone 2, and I felt really good. And I was like, it's working. And that got me really excited. But it really is, Jeff, putting in the time.
Yeah, and that's the training out of the uphill. Sorry, Steve. That's the training out of the uphill athlete. That's what they focus a lot of their time on, is making sure you don't go into, I think it's aerobic deficit is what they call it. I can't remember what type of training they called it.
Yes,
but it's making sure that you have the aerobic engine, and he talked about doing a year at least of that training.
Yeah.
And so Steve and I both coach, and I'm not going to make it about coaching so much, but and hope none of the people that work with Steve or I take this the wrong way, but we love working with runners. So we enjoy that. And many of them have a race that they're targeting stuff. And we want to get them to that race. That is a goal. And we want to get them as fit as they can for that race. And yet in the back of my mind, I'm like, I want to get you here, but I also want to get you here safely, and that you can have a longer term trajectory after it. And so I'm trying to give them a little bit of everything. And that comes sometimes at the development or the lack of the need for continued development at the aerobic base, because they are personally challenged with trying to figure out how to get faster, quicker than they maybe should be.
Right.
And so it's a fine line as a coach that we do as well, because we want to give them that goal and want to help them get there. but it may only be a 5-second improvement in 10 months.
Mm-hmm.
And does that mean it's not working? We're going to talk about the successes that Miss Bailey has in a minute. They can all decide if this is a valid approach or not. But the other thing is you said was that you did a lot of junk miles. And I want to just key on this just for a second. And we talked about consistency is king. And you said you were consistent, but you had a lot of junk miles. And then you used the word intentional. And I'm going to tease this a little bit. I believe every run should have intention. I think we should be consistent in our running, like from a schedule standpoint, but we should understand intention. And so if you have something on your schedule of a zone 2 run every day for the next 10 months, then that is the intention, and that's what you do, and you focus on that. Is that what you mean by intention?
Yes, absolutely. So to take it a step further, when I was road running, I would just go out and just run 5 miles or whatever was on the calendar that day, 5 miles, 7 miles at the same intensity, the same, heart rate. I don't even think I was looking at heart rate back then because I didn't know what I was doing. Not that I do now, but I've learned a lot more and learned the metrics to be aware of. But yeah, I would just go out and every run was the same. Go run 5 miles, horribly out of breath within 3 minutes of running, and I'd run the whole run like that, and just to get the miles done. So what I mean by intentional, and like you said, every run should have a purpose, unless unless you're just going out for a fun run. But mostly now I would say still the bulk of my training is easy zone 2, but it's not, I don't consider them junk miles because I'm very intentional and purposeful with staying in that zone and keeping the effort the same. Just like a race this past weekend, I went out, I treated it as a training event because it was a timed event, and I wanted to stay at the same effort for the whole time and not have a goal of a certain mileage or whatever. Of course, I'm very competitive with myself, and I get carried away. And I'm like, well, I'm feeling really good.
That's why it's so hard to do a race as a training run.
I know. I try not to do that too often because I am just too competitive with myself. But what was I going to say? Oh, so just being intentional with staying in that zone and that effort. And then, other days it's a speed workout. So I'm very intentional with, all right, I want to hit these numbers. And if I don't, that's okay. But I'm going to try to have outline what my goal is for the next hour and a half, as opposed to just lacing up, going out, running, coming back, done. And that's when I really started seeing the biggest transformation was when I stayed consistent and when I was very intentional and purposeful with the runs, and each one had a purpose.
So we're going to talk about it in a minute, but the race she alluded to was the Bear Creek Trail-a-thon that she happened to just, in an easy, casual, stay steady pace, won first place course record, 63 miles in 12 hours. But
no big deal.
Yeah, no big deal. Just, another day in the office for Miss Bailey. So let's talk about the Yeti.
Yes.
If that's okay. So
that's always okay.
Oh my gosh. You are a part of the Yeti family.
Keep going back.
Yeah, there's no question. You if you look at your ultra sign up, you can see that you have run a lot of their races.
Yes, I love everything about the Yeti community.
Jason Green is a fantastic race director.
Oh, he is.
The community around is awesome. So we talked about at the very beginning of the intro. Steve mentioned that you won the Yeti 100 this past year. Just so everybody can follow along the track record here. In 2022, you ran the Yeti in 21 hours and 33 minutes. You got fourth place female, 26 overall. 2023, 20 hours and 34. Still fourth place female. Sorry, you didn't improve there.
Yep.
But you were 12th place overall, which, by the way, you shaved an hour off your time, which is fantastic.
Yeah, it's still an hour.
Yeah, I was happy with that.
2024, you were at the same race I was when Hurricane Helene came through, and we both got washed out, unfortunately. My cabin was flooded, and I had to evacuate. And so...
Oh, man. Were you in Damascus?
I was.
Oh, wow.
It was a rough day.
Yeah.
And then this past year, I went back to Damascus to run the Yeti, as did you. And I ran that race in 25 hours and some change. You, on the other hand, ran that race in 15 hours and 42 minutes flat. No seconds, flat.
Yeah.
First place women, first place overall.
Incredible.
Thank you.
I mean, Steve. And I'm going to
5 hour difference.
Dude, a 5-hour shave. So first off, holy cow. How do you shave 5 hours?
It was just
No, April, I don't know. We don't know. That's actually why we're asking. So April, no,
All right.
we have no freaking clue.
I will say, first of all, thank you. I will say it was just one of those days where everything went right. And I had an amazing crew of my family, my sister, my brother, my brother-in-law. They were my crew, and they were awesome. Weather was great, unlike my first Yeti, where it was, I think I told you that hurricane that came through, that was nasty. But when it got canceled in 2024, I was like everyone, very, of course, disappointed. And I had worked really hard leading up to it. And I felt like I had a chance to get on the podium, having finished fourth in the prior two. And I had tweaked a lot of things. And I felt pretty confident in my training that, all right. And looking at the previous finish times, I felt like I could possibly eke out a podium finish, like if I had a good day. So then when it got canceled,
wait a minute. When you thought that you could eke out the podium, this is a good point here, because you were fourth place female before. Were you thinking podium for women or podium for overall?
Oh no, for women. I was hoping to get like third woman.
Insane.
Third woman, yeah. Yeah. And then when it got canceled, of course, super disappointed. Had another year to train, and I really, not that I put all my eggs in that basket, but that was my primary focus for 2025. Now going back in April, I ran Umstead, and I had a great day there as well, even though it was, I think, a record-setting
it was warm.
day.
It was real warm.
Heat-wise. Yeah. Were you there?
I was volunteering. I was at the aid station.
Oh,
I volunteer
nice.
every year,
Okay.
or I run.
Oh, awesome. Okay. So yeah, it was so hot. TUFF crewed me. They were awesome. I had lots of support from, all the members there, Cam and all the guys that set up the TUFF village there with the canopies. So that was super helpful. But anyway, so I finished that race in 19 hours. So going into Yeti, I was like, okay, Umstead is hillier, and I've got a little bit more experience now. And if I'm really intentional so Umstead was in April and Yeti is in September. So I was like, all right, I've got, a few months to work here. So I thought that it was possible that I could get under 18 for Yeti. And then my stretch goal was, like around 17 and a half hours. So when everything was feeling good, and the same thing, I just kept telling myself, stay at your all-day pace. And it was so nice when the race started. The weather was great. A big pack took off from the front, and I really wanted to stay with them because they weren't like flying, and it felt manageable at the time. But I just kept asking myself, can you maintain this pace for 18 hours? And I thought to myself, I'm just going to pull back, let them go ahead. And I just tried to stay at the same effort all day. And I just checked in with myself mentally at every aid station, every time I saw my crew. And I didn't really feel like I needed to slow down or adjust anything. Everything still felt great. So I just kind of rolled it all day. I just coasted. And it just, not to say it was easy, but I just felt like if I stay steady, I think this is going to be my day. And then as the miles started ticking off, I was like, okay, I definitely could go sub 19. And then I was like, sub 18 is even possible. And then, as I was getting closer and closer, my crew was like, and this was really cool. On the trail, how Jeff was like several out and backs. Every time, getting late in the race, I would say at least after mile 50, people would be saying, okay, you've moved up to X place now. And, you're about to pass, third place male. And I remember coming back, going towards Abingdon for the next to last time. This gentleman passed me, and he was like, he's right up ahead. You're about to pass, the guy in the lead. And I was like, the leading the race. I was like, yes. And sure enough, I did. And I just kind of held on to it. And, like I said, everything just went well. It was a unicorn day. I don't expect that I'll ever have a day like that again. I hope I do, but if I don't, it was, obviously something I'll never forget. Really, really special. And especially for it to be at a Yeti race, a race and a community of people that means so much to me. And the Creeper Trail, I'm from that area. I was born in at Johnson City Memorial Hospital. So my family is all right there in Bristol, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So every time I go to a Yeti race, it's like a family reunion. I get to see most of my siblings and my parents, and sometimes I'll see some cousins, aunts, and uncles. So that's home to me. So it was really special to get to experience that with my family, with the Yetis, Jason there at the end, Samantha and Jerry and the big hugger.
Mr. Inspiration.
So, yes, Mr. Inspiration. So it was just, really incredibly special. It'll take a lot to top that.
Well, and for everybody that's listening, a 15:42 for a 100-mile race is the all-day pace that you were maintaining was about a 9 minute and 18-second minute mile. There it was.
Yeah.
That's incredible to maintain for over 100 miles. And that's including stops if you had a lot of them.
Yeah.
So your actual running pace your all-day running pace was a little bit faster than that, for sure.
Yeah.
Which is
thank
incredible.
You. And speaking of the stops, this is another place that I really I think a lot of people have room for improvement if you can just shave time off your stops, because it adds up so quickly. And don't sit down if you don't have to, even if you got to, work on something on your feet, you don't necessarily have to sit down in that chair, because once you sit down and get comfortable, it's so much harder to get back up and get going. So at our stops, I would throw them my flasks. They would hand me a new one and take off. So I did shave a lot of time from my previous 2 Yetis just with aid station stops. Like I wasn't really stopping. It was like flybys.
Was that intentional?
Yes.
So
yeah, we went over that in the plan beforehand. I was like, I don't want to stop, especially, how, Jeff, where when you got to Damascus, you had to go over that bridge and then the aid station was beyond that and the turnaround. Okay, so my crew set up right before the caboose. So I was able just to throw them my stuff as I'm passing them on my way out to the turnaround. And then when I came back from the turnaround, they would give me my new stuff and I'd take off. So I wasn't really stopping there at all. And then at the other, crew stops, if I did stop, it was just for seconds, just to change something out. I did have to sit twice and use the Theragun on my calf. I was getting some really bad cramping. But other than that, I didn't stop and sit. And that was a huge difference in my previous 2 Yetis, where I would see my crew and be like, oh, I'm so tired. And I'd sit down and they would be like, what do you need? Here's some soup or here's some food. And I would just sit there for 5 or 10 minutes, not thinking about the clock is still running.
April, you're speaking the love language of those of us at the back of the pack. So we're like, right. I need some soup.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's valid.
Jeff and I talk
Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Yeah, Jeff and I talk about that all the time. If you have 18 aid stations for like a 100-miler or a 200 plus, and you're 10 minutes at each one, that's 3 hours there.
Yeah.
And you don't think of it that way when you're actually in it. Right. So if you go in intentionally like you did and build some buffer and then have to stop when you actually have to, then I think that's huge, and it's really good for people to learn.
Right. Even at that timed race I did this weekend, to your point, I didn't have a crew. I just had a chair set up, and after every loop, I'd swap out my flask and, get my fuel or whatever. And I didn't feel like, I was trying to move fast and efficient. And after it was all over and I looked at my time, my total run time was whatever. And then my total stop time was still like 27 minutes. And that was just, and I never sat down. It was just bending over, like swapping things out. But if, over the course of 12 hours, if you do that, every 3 miles, that time is going to add up. So that's definitely one of it's not a secret weapon because it's not a secret, but that was definitely one of the biggest ways one of the lowest hanging fruit, I'll say, that you can shave time off of your races is don't waste time at the aid stations, or just be efficient. In fact, when you're approaching it, and this is what I always try to do, think about before you get there, even if it's a mile out, 2 miles out, 5 miles out. Okay, what am I going to need at the next aid station? I'm feeling like this little pebble under my toe. I should probably pull that rock out and make sure I'm not getting a blister. I need to this candy is making me sick, so I need to switch to something savory. I need to, take a Tylenol, whatever. But think about it before you get to the aid station, rather than getting to the aid station and be like, oh, I'm so tired. What do I need to do? And then you got to think through it, and then you got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then by the time you turn things over and get out of there, it could, 10 minutes could have passed.
Yeah, I tell runners that if they have a hard time remembering like what they're supposed to do when they get back, like they're thinking about, they leave an aid station, they're going to the next one, like, oh, I need to make sure I do this.
Yeah.
And they're not trying to win the race, they're trying to finish the race, or they're trying to go sub 24 even. Is that if you can have a plan going to that aid station, then if you've got a crew, just send them a text. Like you're probably walking for a moment anyway. As you're walking this moment, just send that text, put it back, and then you can start back running again, and they'll have it when you get there. Because everybody's carrying their phone anyway. Most people are. And so if they're not, then they can call a carrier pigeon. I don't know.
Yeah.
But if they have a phone on them, they can use that.
No, you're right. That's a great idea.
Right, is that they can go ahead and have that message for, because a lot of people forget what they were going to do when they get there. The other thing that I think is, it's not everybody knows. It's one of the things that not enough people think about. When they look at putting their schedule together, their pacing plan or whatever it is, because everybody does this.
Yeah.
They put, I've got 18 aid stations, like Steve said, and I'm going to spend 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. And they only put like this small amount. And what I tell them is add it all up to see what that total amount is. And then if this is consistent, maybe if you're trying to get sub 24, how do you cut some of that back? This is going to be the place that if you're trying to find time, you're going to find it there first.
Right. Exactly.
So,
yeah, I did that too for Yeti. I think that did this for UMSET as well. I purposely built in some extra time at the aid station closest to when it switched over from after sunset, because I knew, okay, I got to get my headlamp, I got to get my waist light. I might need to put on some layers if it's cold. And so I try to build a little buffer for that aid station, because that's not going to be a 1 minute turnover. If you've got to get all those things ready to go into the night, or if you're going into a stretch where there's not an aid station for, 15 miles and you got to carry a bunch of gear, because you're not going to see your crew. That's another time where I'll be intentional with building in some extra time so I don't forget anything, because that can also screw you.
Agreed. Steve, were you about to say something? I'm sorry.
You don't want to see what I was just going to say. You don't want to see my stops at Cocodona or the Mammoth. I set up camp, taking a nap. I'm having some hot soup, all that kind of fun stuff.
Well, that's a little different. 250 miles.
Yeah, like you're trying to figure out if you're going to sleep. What April's trying to figure out is if she's going to partake in the Pepsi machine, get some Fireball or not, as she's blazing by on the Yeti. Did you partake in Fireball? I was told to ask.
I did not. I did the first 2 years. Maybe that's the secret.
Yeah, don't, and then you can cut 5 hours off your time for everybody who's struggling with it.
Right.
When you, like I said, I saw you at the race and everything. And so this year, the Yeti, because of the hurricane, was a 16-mile out and back, as opposed to the original course, which is a 33-mile single leg out and back, if you will, and 33-mile leg. So with the 16-mile out and back, we did get to see the leaders more often. And I remember watching the lead pack of these guys that all took off, and they were flying. And it's funny because there was you and there was another lady who were really moving well. And before the race, my wife and I actually saw you because you were wearing these donut shorts. My wife goes, look at her wearing these donut shorts. I was like, yeah, she's real fit too. I said, she's probably going to win this stupid thing. Didn't know you at all, right? And so my wife's like, funny. The donut lady's winning, right? But beside the point, it was crazy to watch you because, and I know you said the weather was good, but it got into I want to say the mid 70s at some point. And it got warm. Yeah, so a lot of runners after this first leg, because it was also more humid than was expected.
Yes.
Humidity had come in. And so this pack of runners that went out, they all started to back off. And quite a few of them, I think, DNF'd because they went out so hard. And then they started disappearing. And I saw you and the other lady was moving up also, I thought, at that point. I don't know how far you two were with each other or what, but it was amazing to watch you eventually take the lead. Because I remember saying, oh my God, Donut Lady's in first. And it was probably around mile 60. Is that when you took over?
Yeah, I think that's when it was. Yeah.
You're almost finishing, and I'm probably finishing my first leg, but that's beside the point. And so it was one of those things. And so it was really cool to see. But for you, being this race that you have, your area that you grew up in Johnson City, like you said, being very familiar with the Yeti races. Almost said Yeti spaghetti, like they always say. It's like being very familiar with the Yeti races and everything that's a part of that community. What did it actually mean to you to win? Like when you crossed the finish line and your family's watching you and everybody's there and you're like, holy crap.
Yeah, that's what I was like. it was hard to believe that it was real. Honestly, it was so, I just wanted to soak it all in, and I was very emotional. And and even Jason was like hugging me, and he was like, I won't use all the language that was used, but he was like, I can't believe you just did that, And he was like so excited for me. And he's so genuine and so sincere. And he wasn't just like, good job, congratulations on the win. He was like hugging me and like lifting me up in the air. And he was like, I can't believe you've improved this much. I'm so proud of you. And, yeah, it was validating for sure that I had put in all the time and the training, and I was sounding so corny, but I really did believe in myself that I could do well. I never in a million years thought I could win the thing. So that was just a whole nother thing to process. And it took a while. It wasn't that day or the next day or even the next week. Sometimes still a picture will pop on my phone. I'm like, I cannot believe I freaking won that race. That's so cool. And it's just really, really special. I can't really put it into words, Jeff, what it means or what it meant at the time and what it means now, but it was definitely something that I never imagined would happen for me. And I remember, do you know Mary? I think I've told you about David Compton's fiance, Mary. Okay, so when she won the Yeti a couple years prior, and then before that, a girl named Rebecca, I believe, won it. I remember watching them and I'm like, man, that's so awesome. They are so, and you just put them on this pedestal, like these amazing runners. I wish I could be like that. And then to be standing where they once stood, you feel like you shouldn't be there. Like I felt like I don't deserve to be here. I'm not in the same class as these women. Truly. So
that's ridiculous.
It was a lot to process, and so much to be thankful for and grateful for, and all the things that got me there. It certainly was not an individual effort. It was a team effort with my crew, with the volunteers, with Jason and all of the race staff that put the Yeti races together and provide all the support. So yeah, it was a monumental day. And, just, I still go back to that moment when I crossed the finish line and, just felt that intense joy and happiness. It's something that's, it will be hard to replicate in the future with any race, I think.
That's awesome. I think I was probably sitting in a chair somewhere at an aid station when you finished. That's fantastic. Super, super awesome. Steve, you got any other questions about the Yeti that you want to know?
Nope. No, I think we covered it all.
I mean, I have this one I am curious about, but I think you've already answered it because you said you were very consistent. Did you negative split this race or did you bank time? Are you a banker? Are you a negativer?
I'm usually a banker. I did not negative, but I think it was actually pretty even.
Dang.
Yeah, it was fairly even. I'd have to look back at my Strava, but I know that I didn't tank, like start off with 9-minute miles and then end up with 15-minute miles. I think it was fairly consistent throughout.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That part, being able to know that that's a pace that you can maintain. Because like you said, most people will go do that. They'll start at like a 9 or a 10.
Right.
And then by the end, they're at like a 15, 18, 20.
I definitely slowed down, but it wasn't I definitely slowed down, but it wasn't huge. I wasn't like walking the last 20 miles or anything.
That's good.
Yeah.
I do that sometimes.
And I've done that many times. I try to tell a lot of my athletes that, like, particularly like in the road races too, if they flip their splits because they start running slower at the end, if you just flip your splits over and run them in reverse, you'll feel stronger as you're going towards the end. Because in a marathon, everybody hits the wall at like mile 22, 23, 24.
Well, the thing is, that makes a lot of sense, but
it's really hard to do.
It's very difficult to do.
Well, Steve, you know why? Like, it's hard to believe that, and because we allow our experience to be the driver here, and we don't believe that we can negative split something that long because we have seen ourselves do this slow fade for so many times, even in a training run. Like, we're like, oh, I'm getting tired, so I get slower. So we don't know how to experience
Right.
that reverse or this negative slope. Most people don't. Now, your professional runners do, sure. But majority of the mid back of the packers, we don't know how to negative split very well because we see this as always a degradation of effort.
Right.
And we're like, if you start off slow, it's just going to get slower.
Yeah.
Not true, but that is how you feel. And so the goal is to really balance it out. Is if you can be balanced for the most time, even if you're going to average 13-minute miles for your first 50 miles, if you can come close to the second half, it's just an incredible race.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, I'm going to go 10 minutes because I'm going to bank those 3 minutes per mile for as long as possible.
Good luck.
It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. But it's
Everybody
hard.
feels great at the beginning.
Yep.
We're all motivated. And then that lead pack all loses to April by at least 5 hours. No disrespect, because I think everybody who toes the line of the race, DNF or not, is incredible for putting the effort on. So I'm just giving them a little bit of a hard time because, you crushed them. So upcoming April, you have the Canebreak 200 in March. For those that don't know, that's also a Yeti race. It's, I think, their second year. You have the Barkley Fall Classic in September. You have the No Business 100 in October, possibly. You find out, I think, in February if you get in. So we want to talk about Canebreak because we talked about all your personal best and everything you've accomplished thus far. You've never run a 200.
No.
So good news is, no matter what happens, if you finish,
it'll be a PR.
It's a PR.
PR.
And you can put that on the resume all day.
Resume.
You could come in dead last. It doesn't matter. So for those who don't know, the Canebreak 200 is being held at Sweetwater Creek State Park in Georgia. It's right outside of Atlanta. It's got 96 hours for the cutoff, which is pretty good. For our first 200, it has this is the key. It has a 5-mile inner loop and a 10-mile outer loop. So it's a looped 200, which is not appealing for a lot of 200 runners, just so you know. Steve's shaking his head out of fear. According to the race description, the course is also considered highly runnable, which suits these fast runners like April. The trails are compact dirt, some roots and rocks, and some gravel bed. The race, like I said, is part of the Yeti family of races. So our first question about Canebreak, we know you just did the Bear Creek Trail-a-thon as a training run, but your goal for this race, I'll go ahead and tell you, the current course record is 57 hours, 11 minutes, and 18 seconds. It's also,
I'm well aware.
It's all, I know you are. I figured that since you told us you're super competitive. What's your goal?
Well, okay. Of course, the goal is to finish.
Yeah.
It would be my first one. I would love to challenge that course record. However, let me back up a bit. In training for the Yeti, I was mostly training on flat, non-technical rail trail because that's what the Yeti is. So train for what you're going to race on. So my point in telling you that is my single track training has been very lackluster, and this is all single track, the Canebreak race. So I've been doing more single track running past few months, and I quickly realized that I am not a strong trail runner. I'm not a strong single track runner, and I'm an even weaker climber. So I've been really working on climbing and power hiking, weighted hiking. So I don't really know what to expect from a goal standpoint. It's hard to set a goal, not having covered that distance before. And I guess the longest I've been up, without sleep is I did a 24-hour race. Also a Yeti race, the Dark Anchor race down in Savannah, when it was in Savannah the first year. But I haven't been awake longer than that, so I don't know how the sleep deprivation is going to play into the whole, all of my goals, including my time goal. So yeah, I would love to say that I want to go challenge that course record, but I don't even know if that's realistic based on my lack of experience with running a race like that. I'm very excited about it. Ultimately, I want to run a point-to-point 200, but I figured, and have you run a 200, Jeff?
Heck no.
No.
Steve,
I know you have, Steve.
200.
In fact, I forget which episode it was that you were talking about Mammoth, maybe with Tim Tollefson recently.
Yep.
Okay. And it was, because after he described it, I was like, that sounds really intriguing.
It does.
It's a good one to do for sure.
But anyway, since there are so many different obstacles and challenges seen in a 200 that you don't see in a 100, a lot of it is going into the unknown. And as far as goal setting, I think that's part of it. Like, I don't I don't know how to set a goal for a 200. Is 57 hours even doable for me? I don't know. But I think my mentality now is just going in, trying to stay consistent, hike early on instead of trying to, like you said, Jeff, I don't want to bank. I don't want to have the thought where, okay, I'm going to try to do, 80 miles this first day because I don't want to tank out for the next 2 or 3 days and then slow down significantly. So I'm planning just to do a run hike strategy from the get-go and kind of go from there. See what happens.
Yeah, it's very smart. Yeah. I always say if you're going to hike it in the second half, you might as well hike it in the first half.
Yeah, right. Right. Why not?
It's true. It is true.
Keep it fresh the whole way.
And I'll take it. No, Steve, I'll take any sleep advice that you have to offer.
Absolutely. I would say, like, when you're tired, sleep when you're tired. There's no point in like banking sleep. And then even if it's a 10-15 minute nap is fantastic, depending on how you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, point to points are a little bit different, but a good 10-15 minute nap, you'll save yourself hours of like death marching over the next 50, 60 miles.
Okay. Steve, does that vary though, depending on the runner? Like, for example, if somebody like me is going to be pushing 95 hours, right? You're going to probably tell me to try to get more sleep. I might as well get more sleep because I'm going to be out there for almost 4 days. April, I'm not putting the pressure on you, but more than likely you're not going to be out there for 4 days. Okay. So, and so your sleep deficit and needs may be different, and so I think if people are listening, trying to figure out like, well, do I just need to do 10, 15 minutes? I think you want to kind of look at yourself. Where do I think I'm going to land overall? Yep. And if it's going to be that I'm going to be out there for 3 or 4 days, I may need to get a little bit more sleep than 10 to 15 minutes and sleep like intentionally, like take the time and, because you're not rushing anyway. So I think it varies depending on the runner. I am curious for you on the single track. Do you think, I think everybody's slower on single tracks. Let's just be fair. Yeah. Do you think that because your running style on a rails to trail, you're a road runner by trade, right? If you will.
Right.
And so you did, I think 25 years of running before. And so you have just a solid, like, let's go type run. Do you think that that there's more nuance in single track, that's why you're not able to hit that same rhythm? Do you think that's part of it? Or do you just think you just haven't done it as much?
I think both. Hitting that rhythm for sure. And then just doing it, just practicing it. I've been also doing a lot of single leg exercises and ankle strengthening exercises because I found out early on that I was rolling my ankle on like little, like a tiny little pine cone and it hurt. It wasn't just like a tweak. It was like, ow, so I had weak ankles. So I've been working on that. But yeah, I think to answer your question, it's just the lack of experience. I haven't done a ton of single track racing for sure. I feel like I can do pretty well. I don't know. Getting there, it's seeing the course. We're going to go down next month, some other tough runners and I, and check out the course. So I think I'll have maybe a little bit better handle on it than seeing it, because it's funny that it's listed as very runnable. I don't know. Some of the race reports I read, it didn't sound like it was all runnable, but I could be wrong.
What's the elevation profile of the loops?
Let's see. I think it's under 30 for the whole 200.
Okay.
30,000. So
that sounds like a lot on a rails to, not on a rails trail, but on a trail in Atlanta. That's going to be a lot of like small up and downs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It looks like just rolling the whole time.
Yep.
That's going to be a calf buster.
Yeah.
Good luck with that, April.
And there's a section of stairs too. I don't know how many stairs, but I saw a picture and it's like, a nice big long flight of stairs.
Okay, so the race website that said highly runnable is a lie. So we'll just go and be honest with ourselves.
I don't want to say it's a lie, but it might be highly runnable for
no one. It's not highly runnable for Jason. Let's be honest. I love him to death, and no.
Yeah.
I think you're doing a really good job of identifying your potential pitfalls, even like not seeing the course and not knowing it, and doing things in training, like your strength training, like your ankle training and mobility, to address those as much as you can before you get there. I think that's, like you said, just have intention with every run that you're doing. Like, I'm doing this so that at mile 180 and I'm going uphill. This is what it's going to feel like.
Right. Right.
Uh,
And I did get a coach for this race since it was my first 200, and I had no idea how to even attack training. You probably have heard of her, Deanna Doan. She said the
yes.
FKT on the Florida Trail last year. She's a beast of a runner. She's a firecracker. In fact, she just got at the Coldwater Rumble this past weekend. She got second female,
Nice.
and that was a pretty stacked field. Yeah. So, but she's having me do doubles. Like I'll run in the morning and then do like a weighted vest treadmill slog on a nice incline in the evening for an hour or hour and a half. So again, with the, being intentional with adding in things that you're going to be facing during the race. So a lot of people going into it may think, and I was guilty of this too, I got to up my volume. I got to run more miles, but I'm going to be most likely hiking a lot more than I am running those 200 miles. So I've been doing a lot of hiking, a lot of walking, a lot of weighted walking, a lot of power walking, just to try to be more efficient so that when I cannot run or it's difficult to run, I can at least be efficient with my forward movement and still cover, ground in an efficient way.
So do you like a loop course?
Not particularly.
Me either. We were talking about this beforehand. We're like, I don't know at what point I may lose my mind. If I was trying to do this for that many hours.
That's going to be I think that's going to be every bit as much as challenging as the physical aspect. Just going around for, those 2 loops.
Do you have a strategy for that? Because I know even for me, even in like Cocodona or Mammoth, when it's flat and when it's straight and boring, I'm usually falling asleep.
Yeah.
Like I almost need something to fight against, either fighting against going uphill, weather, or something to keep me awake. Like, do you have anything you're thinking about, like, to fight that monotony?
Well, just what you just said, that I guess what I've been thinking is I'm just going to hike the ups and run the downs and flats as long as I can. But I'm going to hike the ups from the get-go and just try to keep my mind and body engaged in, okay, when I get there, when I turn this corner, there's going to be a hill there. So then I get to hike. Well, then after that hill, then I get to run, and then I get back to the aid station and then I can change, get something to eat. I know there's some ruins there from a previous movie, or like a mill, and a movie was filmed there, like Hunger Games was filmed there, I think. Yeah. Thank you. And then I think there's a couple creek crossings, some bridges. So it's enough to keep it interesting, at least for the first, 24 hours. And then, but to answer your question, Steve, I don't, besides changing it up, my pace and my mode of attack for each part of the course, I think it's just going to be, harnessing all the mental strategies that I have learned thus far and carrying with me mantras. One thing that I'll often do in a long race is, if I am going to listen to music or a podcast or a book, I won't allow myself to do that for the first 12, 14, 16 hours. So then it's a treat when I get to put in the headphones and kind of go to another place for a bit after I've done some work for, 14 hours. I think just trying to introduce, keep it spicy, hike, run, jog, walk, just try to break up the monotony of the loops.
Don't forget to eat in there somewhere.
Yeah, and eat, yeah. Lots of things, yeah.
So speaking of eating, what is your go-to nutrition?
Oh man, that's a whole nother podcast because it's a work in progress.
I think it is for everybody.
I just did an experiment at this race last weekend. So leading up to that race, I had, like most of us, done like gels and liquid calories, tailwind primarily, and then later in the race started adding in solid food. Well, I've been like really struggling with nausea and vomiting after a few hours. So, and every time it's like, I just can't take another gel, or I can't eat another piece of candy or a gummy or anything. So this time I decided I'm going to try to just do just whole foods, just real food from the get-go. No tailwind, water only in my flasks. And I did like rice balls. I made some banana muffins before I went, rice balls. Oh, I roasted some little baby potatoes. I roasted them with like a little bit of olive oil and like some rosemary and thyme and sea salt, like crunchy sea salt and pepper. So it's nice to have that savory and a different texture, as opposed to all the sweet stuff. And from a GI perspective, I had the best race I've had in a long time. So
That's awesome.
I might be I'm very cross my fingers that I might be onto something, at least for myself, that I don't know. Just all those sugary gels and tailwind, even though I know you can adjust, how much, carbs or whatever, but it just doesn't work for my stomach after a few hours.
I think they're hard on a lot of people. And so now I'm curious, how do you carry muffins and all this stuff in your hand? And it gets kind of squishy. So how do you carry potatoes and muffins?
This might be different for a longer race, but for this race, it was just a 3.5 mile loop. So I would just at the end of every loop after you check in, I had my chair there and I would just grab something and stick it in my shorts pocket. Or actually, this is what I did. I would stick it the first few laps. I would just grab it and eat it and go. But the lap starts downhill and you have to come back up that hill when you're coming back to the timing mat. So what I did, maybe like starting with lap 4, was I would grab that food and stick it in my pocket, and I wouldn't eat it until my return lap when I was walking up that hill. Because if you're going to be walking already, you might as well eat while you're walking instead of trying to shove food in while you're running and, choke. So I would use that walking break to also eat.
Visualizing soggy muffins in your shorts now. So are you putting like a Ziploc?
No. So there was no soggy muffins. Yeah. So the muffins were tiny. They're like little micro muffins. So I would just pop those. But the rice balls, I wrapped them in saran wrap before I left. And so when I would shove them down in my pocket, the rice would just kind of flatten up against my thigh and it would be like a little cake. And so then by the time I got back from the loop and I would unwrap the little saran wrap, it was like a little rice cake.
I'm only asking specifically because I'm only asking specifically because people are like, well, how am I supposed to carry some of this stuff? Like, it'll work. Just, wrap it up in a way, because I think if you make something that you like I thought the potatoes you just said sounded fantastic. I thought I need to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
Well, what you just said is key. If you make something you like, you're going to be a lot more likely to eat it and put fuel in your body. Whereas before, when I'm approaching an aid station, I'm like dreading the idea of squeezing a disgusting gel in my mouth or chugging some Tailwind or eating another PB&J, but for these, I was like, ooh, this lap I'm going to have potatoes. Ooh, this lap I'm going to have a rice ball. Ooh, this lap I'm going to have, I also did cheese. Like I got these little burritos and I cooked them before I left home and I just cut them into like little pieces, like little bite-sized pieces. And I just had them in a container. So same thing, like I would switch it up every lap what I would eat. But for the burritos, they're, like I said, in little bites. I would just open the container and just pop a bite in and go. And it was just nice to have real food and have different flavors and different textures, and that kept me motivated to keep eating. And I never lost energy. I didn't bonk. I didn't get nauseous. I felt really good.
I like it. I like it a lot.
I found switching from, I don't know what you do sodium wise, but switching from the chewables to the capsules for sodium, I found that's kept me a little bit better that way. And I found that if my sodium's in line, then I'm much more likely to eat as well.
Okay, good to know. I'll try that, because those salt tabs, those little ones that are kind of sour, but after a while, the acidity of them really starts to get to me, and I just as soon as it hits my tongue, I'm like, yeah.
And the capsules give you a little bit more bang for your buck, because it's like one capsule to like 2 of the chews.
Okay, all right, good. Thank
Unless you're dehydrated like me, then you can't get that salt capsule down your throat. You're like, oh, I joke. Well, maybe not. So we talked about your goal for, our goal for you is to win the thing and smash the course record, but you never know, right?
Well, thank you.
Let's flip the equation. You've never DNF'd.
Well, you just jinxed me.
I know. And everyone's like, oh my God, I can't believe he just did that to her. And all your friends and family are like, well, what is he doing?
I'm coming after you.
I know, right? I'm not saying that. So everybody who now hates me, just leave a comment. So make sure you subscribe first. Okay, this is too fun. Just joking. But are you a death before DNFer? Do you think?
I would like to say no, but because I would like to think that I'm intelligent enough to know that, okay, if I keep going in this condition, I'm going to do some long-term damage, and I'm in it for the longevity. I'm not in it just to survive one race, However, as I already told you, I'm very competitive and I hate the idea of quitting. So I think that I would be a death before DNF in the sense that if I weren't truly near death, if I weren't truly putting my health in danger or someone else in danger, that I would go as long and as hard as I can to finish. I think it would take a lot to take me out of a race.
I like that.
I would like to think, yeah.
I like how that sounds. So I'm gonna tease that apart a little more, though. Like, dang it,
come on.
So to say that you're competitive, I agree. I mean, you're definitely competitive, and I think you have the track record that demonstrates you're great at it. So there's no reason to assume you're not. So you're competitive, and that's why you won't DNF now. Are you competitive? Will you not DNF because you don't want to lose to somebody else, or you don't want to quit on yourself?
I don't want to quit myself.
Yeah, that kind of competitive. So you're competitive with yourself. I love that.
Truly. It's fun to be on the podium, and obviously it's super fun to win. But I can honestly say that's not my motivation. I want to get better every time. And what's exciting to me is to look back at where I was, 3-4 years ago. As a runner, I'm a totally different runner now. And that's not because I'm special. It's because I stayed consistent. I put in the work, and I learned from others, which is another beautiful thing about this sport is what you can learn from other people. Just since joining TUFF, I've been with TUFF for a little over a year now, and that has been absolutely invaluable to my running journey. All the experience there, and there are runners in TUFF. There are people in TUFF, everyone from hikers to dog walkers to people that are winning every race they enter and everything in between. So there's a wealth of knowledge and experience in that group that I've definitely benefited from.
If there's a message that comes out of this for me and for your family members that probably now hate me about this whole DNF conversation, is that what I take from that is you for yourself and what you probably believe about everybody else. And just from the things you've already talked about earlier is that we need to live by this idea of don't quit on yourself,
Yes.
and like that doesn't mean it's taking competitive with yourself, but saying, I'm just not going to quit on me. And I think if everybody could do that, we would be better just in general, like in everything, because we would see ourselves differently. You've mentioned TUFF a few times, and I know that they may listen to this at some point too. For those listening who don't know what TUFF is, it's TUFF. Can you explain to everybody what is TUFF?
Yes, TUFF is TUFF, Trail and Ultra Fun Fam. And it was started by a couple of runners, I think 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And it's just a super fun run club here in the Raleigh area that I like I said, they're very welcoming to anyone and everyone. It's just a great, it's not only is it fun, it's just a great resource too. In fact, when I ran Umstead, I had only been with the club for like 3 months. And I didn't really know anybody, but Cam was like, all right, we're going to take care of you. I've got you. And he got me pacers for, the final 4 laps. They crewed me. They totally took care of me as if I was like their founding member, one of the founding members. So they treat everyone like a rock star. They treat everyone like their best runner in the group. So it's been really exciting to be a part of that and certainly helpful in so many ways.
So if people are listening and they live in the Raleigh area and they think to themselves, should I go check out the TUFF Run Club? Because it sounds good and everything, but April Bailey is one of the people, and she ran and won the Yeti 100. Like, she blew everybody out. Do you think they would feel welcome?
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are so many, and we meet on Sunday mornings for like a fun run. And again, paces are all over the place, and it kind of spreads out organically, but you'll have like a pack that's out there running, 6:30s. And then you'll have some people that are just walking their dogs or pushing their kids in their stroller.
Nice.
And then the mid packers, and there's no pressure to run a certain pace, and there's no pressure to run a certain distance. It's all about community and lifting each other up. I'm actually an introvert, and I have always trained by myself, run by myself. It took a lot for me to go out and put myself out there with TUFF, just because I don't know, I felt like I didn't really have the confidence, and I didn't belong in a run club. But it has certainly helped elevate my everything when it comes to running, because I also really like the accountability of it. Knowing that, all right, they're going to be there Sunday, I should go. And even if I don't feel like it, and then you get there and I'm like, why wouldn't I want to come? This is so much fun, and everyone's so nice. And you're out there running in Umstead. It's beautiful. But yes, everyone is welcome.
That's awesome.
And it's a great run club.
That's fantastic. I'm an introvert as well. Unfortunately, I don't live in Raleigh, so I can't go. But maybe at Umstead, I volunteer at Umstead every year, and maybe I should just see if I can volunteer to serve with the TUFF group instead of the aid station. But
I would love it.
They may not have me. Who knows? Steve, do you have any other questions for Miss Bailey today?
No, I think we're good. I think we hit them all.
I think so too.
Ish.
I think so.
Yeah.
Well, April, what we do at the end of all of our episodes, we do a thing we call Coach's Corner. And so sometimes we have questions come in, sometimes we don't. But this week we did have a question come in. And so this question, it comes from a listener. And what they do is they submit a question and we answer those questions. Steve does, I do, and then our guest does as well. We typically answer that question first, but we'll probably let you do it this time because you tend to have known everything better than us anyway, particularly when you opened up the show talking about the importance of Zone 2 training. And I really just wanted to stop the recording and just post that. And that was going to make the entire episode. But so today's question, though, for those who are listening, is one of those questions I'm personally not even sure how to answer myself. The question comes in from Cameron, and Cameron wants to know, what are you baking for the next Sunday Fun Day Run Day with TUFF?
Oh, Cam. Let's see.
For those listening, that is one of the organizers. Yeah, that's one of the organizers of the TUFF thing. He would like to know what April is baking for the Sunday.
I will bring the food that worked out so well for me last weekend. The roasted potatoes, the rice balls cooked in coconut milk. They're vegan. We have some vegan runners there, and the little banana muffins that you were worried about getting all squishy in my shorts.
There you go. Well, this episode comes out on February 6th. So if you're bringing food this Sunday, they won't know. But if you wait until the February 8th,
perfect,
then you can actually bake all of that for them.
I'll do it.
So anyway, Cam, thank you for playing along. I had reached out to him yesterday to ask for a fun question for you because I knew that you were very much involved with TUFF and that you love that group. And I thought that would be a good way for you to kind of give back some fun. But April, thank you so much for taking the time.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Listen, you were great. And we just appreciate you hanging out with us. So thank you for that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome having you.
Yeah. For those listening, thank you for taking the time to download the episode. I hope you listened to the entire episode. I think there was plenty of things that April shared that I think you can learn from. I know I learned from. You actually reinforced quite a few things that I felt about my own personal training and what I've seen in myself. And Steve, I know you've seen in yourself as well, just through your own Zone 2 training that you've done for many years. And so I think you have provided so much value to those who've taken the time to listen. And so for those who are listening, again, thank you. I hope you found that as well. Leave us a like, comment if you are in TUFF. I expect every single member of TUFF that's heard this. We have talked about you enough. You have better be like and subscribing and all this.
That's right.
I'm just kidding. But again, thank you for being a great community for April as well. And so again, thank you all for taking the time to be with us, and we will talk again soon. See ya. Bye now.